Good morning. And thank you very, very much, Children's Choir. That was wonderful. What a wonderful way to start our morning. Good morning, and welcome to Eliot Unitarian Chapel on the third Sunday of Advent and the first day of Hanukkah. My name is Reverend Krista Taves. It is my honor to serve as your Minister of Congregational Life. My pronouns are she, her. In this congregation, we are people of many ages, many backgrounds, and many beliefs. We are people of diverse orientations, identifications, family structures, and abilities. Our core values are justice, equity, and compassion. If you are visiting, I hope that your time with us is meaningful, that you experience being warmly welcomed, and that you will join us again. If you're here in person, please fill out the guest form you received on the way in and leave it in the offertory basket. This way we can stay in touch with you. If you didn't get one, ask for one on your way out of the sanctuary after the service. If you're visiting online, we'd also love to welcome you personally. Please let us know you're here by emailing welcome@eliotchapel.org. And we have 2 coffee hours. Our in-person coffee hour is in Adams Hall right after the service. If you're a guest and you want someone to speak to you, you're invited to take a blue mug. If you want to be invisible, take a white one. Our Zoom coffee hour starts at noon. You can get the login by registering for our communications on the website. We do have 2 short announcements before we start our service today. We are reintroducing a tradition this morning, which is recognizing when a member of the congregation has died. It is a way to recognize those we know and love and honor their commitment to this congregation. It will take place during the prayer. And finally, we have 2 services scheduled for Christmas Eve, 4:30 and 8. We are asking you to register for the service so that we can prepare. We won't turn away anyone who isn't registered, but it would really help us. And the link is on the website and in our weekly email. A central ritual in the Unitarian Universalist tradition is the lighting of our chalice. It symbolizes that we have entered sacred space and are preparing our hearts and minds for the blessing of beloved community that happens whenever we gather. Thank you. Out of depths unknown, the spark of life ignites and we are born. We enter a world, a universe not of our making. Our lives unfold in mystery and wonder. Questions abound for which there are no definite answers. And so we gather in community to seek in one another assurance and recognition, compassion and strength. We gather in community to be reminded of what is most ultimate and what is most sacred in this spirit of searching and of reverence. Let us worship together this morning. I invite you to rise in body or spirit for 1067 in the teal hymnal, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden.
Praise
As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of the covenant. We make these sacred promises that we give ourselves to, knowing that we will always at times fall short of those promises. Yet in our covenant, we promise to come back to the table always and try again. I invite you to join with me in reading the covenant of this congregation as it is printed in your orders of service. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be, to listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends. So this week we are coming upon a very, very special day called winter solstice. This Wednesday, December 21st, is winter solstice, which has the shortest day and the longest night of the year. It's when we switch from fall to winter at precisely 3:27 p.m. After December 21st, every day will start having more light. And this is a very special time in Northern Hemisphere, Earth-centered traditions. Because, in the South, it's going to be the longest day and the shortest night of the year. So our seasons are flipped. So there are groups that find this a very, very special time, like the First Nations peoples, for whom this is a very, very special day. And it's also special to pagan traditions, which are tribal traditions recovered from pre-Christian spiritual traditions in Europe. And these indigenous traditions and these pagan traditions are thousands and thousands of years old, older than we can imagine. Paganism has a deep place in Unitarian Universalism. Our faith became open to non-Christian influences in the 1830s, which we will learn more about in today's message. But paganism formally entered into Unitarian Universalism in the 1970s and the 1980s through Unitarian Universalist women who had had enough. They were done sitting in the basement teaching Sunday school while the men were on the board of trustees and in the pulpit. Not that there's anything wrong with being in the basement teaching Sunday school. It's a very special thing. But there were very rigid ways that women were expected to be, and women and men were expected to be, in our very churches. And these women said, hey, this is not okay. We are a free religious tradition, and we have been fighting for women's rights since the 1800s when we wanted the right to vote. Shouldn't we be as free in our churches now? So anyways, in it came. It was like a deep wind blowing in from the east. Through the feminist movement, the peace movement, the environmentalist movement, where the earth is understood as its own being and every single thing on it, every life form, every blade of grass, the rocks, the wind, the sun, everything courses with life. And this didn't happen without a lot of controversy. But over time, it settled into our tradition. And the core concepts of paganism fit in well with our Unitarian Universalist theology, which sees the spark of the divine, not just in every human being, but in all things. And one of the central rituals of the European earth-based traditions is calling in the four directions. And we often do that in our services at this time of the year, and we are going to do it as well. However, we're going to amend it just a bit today, because we are also a faith tradition that is committed to decolonizing our language and our practices. And some indigenous leaders have suggested that the idea that humans have the power to summon the directions is prideful. It assumes we have the power over nature when we are instead embedded with it. So in North American indigenous religious traditions, you don't call in the four directions. You acknowledge the elements because they're already here. They've always been here in us and living through us. So today we will acknowledge the four directions. We will light a candle for each direction, sing to that direction the song I'm going to teach you, and together we're going to read 446 in our hymnals. So first, I need 4 volunteers for our 4 candles. Yes, there's one there. We got our 0 to 20. We need someone who's 20 to 40. All right, Patrice, you're next. Now we need someone who's 40 to 60. All right, come on up. And we need someone who's 60 to 80. I think. All right, so come on up. Come on up. All right. So, we've got. No. 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 So first I'm going to teach you the song. We've sung it before. It is very simple. It goes like this. We're going to start with the first verse, just so you can hear it, and then you'll guess what happens next. Spirit of the air, carry me. No. Spirit of the air, carry me home. Spirit of the air, carry me home to myself. We do that for every direction, okay? So we're going to need you in the 4 directions. So this is east. So why don't you stand east? Oh, okay. Okay. Or am I missing something? Okay. Did I get confused?
I'm the 20 to 40 person.
20, 40. All right. That's all right. Any direction is fine. You will face the north. You will face the east, and you get to face the south, which is right here. Wait a minute. I did this wrong once. We called every direction the wrong direction. Okay. South, north, west, east. All right. So. Please join with me. Let us acknowledge the Spirit of the East. Spirit of the East. Do you have your 446? Sorry, 446. And when it's your direction, hold up your candle. Everybody ready? Please join with me. Spirit of the East, Spirit of air, of morning and springtime, be with us as the sun rises in times of beginning, times of planting. Inspire us with a fresh breath of courage as we go into new adventures. Please join with me. Spirit of the air, carry me. Spirit of the air, carry me home. Spirit of the air, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the South. Spirit of the South, Spirit of fire, of noontime and summer, be with us through the heat of the day and help us to be ever growing, Warm us with strength and energy for the work that awaits us. Spirit of the fire, carry me. Spirit of the fire, carry me home. Spirit of the fire, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the West. Spirit of the West, Spirit of water, of evening and autumn, be with us as the sun sets, and help us to enjoy a rich harvest flow through us with a cooling, healing quietness, and bring us peace. Spirit of the water, carry me. Spirit of the water, carry me home. Spirit of the water, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the North. Spirit of the North, Spirit of earth, of nighttime and winter, be with us in the darkness, in the time of gestation. Ground us in the wisdom of the changing seasons as we celebrate the spiraling journey of our lives. Spirit of the earth, carry me. Spirit of the earth, carry me home. Spirit of the earth, carry me home to myself. Spirit of the East, Spirit of the South, Spirit of the West, Spirit of the North, thank you for being with us, for your steadfast presence as through the unfolding of our lives, day by day. Amen. Let's sing our children out. Please join with me as you are willing and able in the spirit of prayer and meditation. This prayer is by Lynn Unger. Let it get quiet. The universe does not revolve around you. The stars and planets spinning through the ballroom of space dance with one another quite outside of your small life. You cannot hold gravity or seasons. Even air and water inevitably evade your grasp. Why not, then, let go? You could move through time like a shark through water, neither restless nor ceasing, absorbed in and absorbing the native element. Why pretend you can do otherwise? The world comes in at every pore, mixes in your blood before breath releases you into the world again. Did you think the fragile boundary of your skin could build a wall? Listen. Every molecule is humming its particular pitch. Of course you are a symphony. Whose tune do you think the planets are singing as they dance? Let us enter into a time of silence for the prayers of our hearts. Let us speak the names of those we would hold in prayer. Let us lift up the name of June Crowther, beloved member and friend who has passed at age 101. We are grateful for her passing, as she had been ready for some time to cross over. Let us lift up our gratitude for her living and her being. In the name of that flourishing love that fills all things, this we pray. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated for our next hymn, number 55, Dark of Winter. For many, many years, this congregation partnered with Room at the Inn, and we would open up our congregation to those in our community who were homeless, families mostly, who would be able to spend the night here and receive a good meal. How many of you volunteered with Room in the Inn when it was here? So many people. During the pandemic, it stopped. But the service didn't stop. Instead, Room at the Inn created a central location, and that's where everyone went now. And we thought it might change and go back after the pandemic, but they realized it was so much more efficient to feed people in one place than have to transport them to churches. So we don't host anymore. However, it doesn't mean that we are no longer partnering with Room at the Inn. This remains a very, very important ministry to us. So this month, half of our offering is being given to Room at the Inn for the services that are still desperately needed in our community. Let us be a generous people. Will the ushers please come forward and take the offering?
Shake
Would the ushers please come forward? Please join with me in blessing these gifts with the words printed in your orders of service. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. Our reading this morning is by beloved poet Mary Oliver, called Mysteries, Yes. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch, and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, "Look," and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. Thank you. That was beautiful. Today's message is about wonder. That sense of joy or fullness we have when something beautiful happens, when it feels like things are aligned in a very special, heartwarming way. At this time of year, we spend an awful lot of time and energy trying to create a sense of wonder for ourselves and for our children and for those that we love. Lights, Advent candles, menorah candles, music, presents, holiday baking, coins wrapped in gold foil, stories of Santa Claus, winter wonderlands, and so much more. This is indeed a season of wonder. So there's been something I've been really wanting to share with you for a while now. I thought about sharing it when Reverend Barbara was interviewing me for coming here, and I thought, no, not yet. And then I thought about it when we started worshiping outdoors. It's like, no, can't do it yet. Then I thought about sharing it when Reverend Doug, our interim minister, came, and I still couldn't do it. But the time seems right now. So here goes. Here's what I've been dying to share with you. One of the blessings of my life is that I have a mother who has a direct line to Mrs. Santa Claus. Don't laugh. It's true. Seriously, I have proof. My mother knows Mrs. Claus. Or how else would she know that Mrs. Claus loves sewing doll clothes? Let me explain. When I was a toddler, my mother made me a doll. She made me and all of my brothers dolls. My doll was called Mopsy. And she's still around in the doll bed at the top of the stairs at my parents' house, recovering from my childhood. When I was a girl, Mom and I would put Mopsy in a paper bag and leave her on the back porch in early December. And the next morning, she would be gone, picked up by the elves who came in Santa's sleigh. Mopsy would be transported through the stars by the reindeer, including Rudolph, to the North Pole. My mom also liked to sew, and that may have been how she and Mrs. Claus crossed paths. Because every year my mom sewed me a Christmas dress, which I would wear to the Christmas Eve service and all the family Christmases. We had 4. It was a marathon. Well, wouldn't you know, when my brothers and I came down from the stairs Christmas morning, there was Mopsy, brought back by Santa Claus, sitting under the tree, wearing the exact same dress my mother made for me. There's your proof. Clearly, Mrs. Claus and my mother colluded to make this little miracle happen year after year. I was an absolute wonder. Mopsy made that journey at least 10 times. No wonder she's still resting at the top of the stairs. Even as I grew older and came to understand things in a new way, I still put her in that paper bag on the porch, hoping to touch the wonder, even though I knew more about the inner workings of Christmas. We are in the season of wonder, a season that celebrates many miracles. The Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, which starts this evening, celebrates the miracle of the temple flame that kept burning for 8 days, even though there was only oil for 1, with the lamp lit by a small band of fierce warriors fighting for freedom from a hostile, mighty empire. This undying flame foretold their victory and the survival of the Jewish people under constant threat of extinction. Today is the Christian 4th Advent. In the traditional Christmas, Mary accepts the Spirit of God she believes in and becomes with child. And in the midst of violence and oppression that many of us can scarcely imagine, a child is born in a stable, visited by shepherds, angels, and wise men who have followed the star that shines above him. Such magical, wondrous stories. How many of us as children literally believed in one of these stories or another religious story central to the faith we were raised in? A whole lot of us. In my experience, there was a wonder to this simple belief. As a child, and I wanted to touch that wonder, I would lay on the floor in front of the Christmas tree, playing Christmas carols, staring at the nativity set, looking into the eyes of each character, hoping to feel a sense of that wonder. Now, as some of you can imagine very well, it was very difficult when I started to doubt and then unpack this literal belief in the story of the birth of Jesus. Perhaps you've had a similar experience with your stories of origin. It wasn't that I wanted to go back to the belief. I knew I couldn't do that. But what I missed so much, what hurt my heart, was losing the sense of wonder. And for quite a long time, that sense of wonder was elusive because it had been completely wrapped up in literally believing the story. How do we recreate wonder when our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs shift? That's what I'm curious about. How do we hold on to that? What do we let go of? How do we claim wonder in a new way? I want to tell you a story this morning drawn from our American Unitarian history when we literally had an in-house theological battle over the source of wonder. A struggle that separated our denomination for many, many decades. And the struggle was rooted, believe it or not, in whether you needed to believe the miracles in the Bible in order to be a Christian. Doesn't that sound odd today? We are such a pluralist faith with such a strong stream of rationalism through it that this seems like a ridiculous issue, like how many angels can fit onto the head of a pin. But stay with me because it actually has a significant impact on who we are today and where we seek wonder. In our early years, Unitarianism was a Christian religion, and for many Unitarians around the world, it still is. In the early 1800s, the first American Unitarians separated themselves from other Christians over questions like, was Jesus God? Unitarians said no. Were we born either saved or damned? Unitarians said no. We are born as blank slates, full of potential. Unitarians didn't believe God wrote the Bible either. It was written by human beings. Our early ancestors wanted a modern Christianity that merged the Enlightenment values of reason and rationality with their faith. But there was one thing they did not question, and that was the miracles in the Bible. They said that believing the miracles was a litmus test for whether you were actually a Christian, because God used the miracles to prove that Jesus was his son. Interesting, right? Who would have thought? Well, William Ellery Channing, one of the founders of American Unitarianism, this is what he believed. He believed that when humans got it badly wrong, like seriously wrong, you can't come back from the precipice wrong, God would break into history and he would set things right. And it was a he in those days. So the Great Flood was one example, right? Humanity was so messed up that we were beyond repair, so God destroyed everything, saving only one family and a set of each animal so that we got a do-over. Jesus was the same. Clearly, humanity was getting more and more broken. So God broke into history and brought Jesus, the most perfect person ever, into the world. And all of Jesus' miracles, the people he healed, raising Lazarus from the dead, even his own resurrection, this was God breaking into history to set things right. If you didn't believe in these miracles, you really didn't believe in God's power. So that's where we were in our earliest years in American Unitarianism in the early 1800s. And I keep emphasizing this was American Unitarianism because this issue wasn't important for Unitarians in other places. It was a specifically American thing. Well, the first people to question the requirement to believe in miracles were the second generation of Unitarians, rebelling against their elders, who were the first generation Unitarians. Yes, it never stops. So it never stops. And this second generation of rebellious younger Unitarians called themselves transcendentalists, because they believed that you did not need the Bible to connect to God. Transcendentalists believed that there was a spark of God in every person, and this spark connected us to a transcendent power, or as Ralph Waldo Emerson called it, the oversoul. If you wanted to find God, you looked into your heart, into your mind, into your spirit. There you would find God. You looked at other human beings as well as having that spark of the divine, and you would see them as also having God in them. So you found God in yourself, and you found God in your relationships with other people. And you also found God in nature. Don't stay in your churches, they said. And don't listen to me today when I say that. Don't stay in your churches, they said. Go out into the world and witness the wonder of everything around us. The dew on a flower in the morning, tender shoots of green in the spring, a gurgling brook, the sunrise. Well, all these new ideas horrified the first generation Unitarians, who called themselves the traditional Unitarians. But what really got them going was Transcendentalists' claim that you did not need to believe in the miracles of the Bible to be a person of faith. Why force people to set aside their minds, they said? It was harmful. It was like a poison in this new so-called free faith. They didn't say you couldn't believe in miracles. They just said you didn't have to. If you want miracles, look inside your heart. Find the spark of the divine. See it in the hearts of everyone around you. Go into the natural world. Look up at the stars. Run your hands through the damp forest floor. There was all the wonder you needed. The traditionalist Unitarians did everything they could to shut this down. The struggle led to splits in churches, in families, in seminaries, between ministers, and even between regions of the country. The Eastern Unitarians tended to be traditionalists, and the Western Unitarians tended to lean the other way. And it took decades to mend the rift, and only became possible when humanism entered Unitarianism, and then everyone had something else to fight about. Someday I'll preach about that. It is quite a story. Did you have any idea that wonder makes such a difference? We often see wonder as a frill. It's great to have, but in the nuts and bolts of the world, in the stock market, in property values, in inflation rates, the economy, the price of gas, and do we have enough milk for breakfast? Does wonder really have a place? And I would say that wonder is not simply a frill, because a life without wonder is a life of disconnection and cynicism, and we can see where that is getting us, can't we? What Transcendentalism did for us is expand our understanding of where we find the sacred, where we find wonder. For traditional Unitarians, wonder came from one place, and that was God, up above us, a separate, independent being who you strived to reach and who broke into history to save us from ourselves. Thanks to the legacy of those Transcendentalists who held out and eventually won the day, we can see wonder is everywhere. Our very lives are wondrous. Our relationships are wondrous. The earth and everything on it is wondrous. In a way, what the Transcendentalists did is they broke down this dualism of mind, body, spirit, of earth and heaven, all those dualisms that are so central to more dogmatic religions. They collapsed them. So there is no division between the earthly and the heavenly. It's all one. There is no division between a transcendent power and us. It's all one. It's all part of the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part, which is our seventh principle. And this is when the seed was planted in Unitarianism for the eventual entry of paganism as one of the strands of our faith, because it also sees wonder in every living and non-living thing. It changes your whole worldview, because there's no domination and hierarchy. Instead, there is a radical equity and a toppling of humanity from the pedestal that we've put ourselves on. No, the world is not here for us. Instead, we are one part of the wondrous strands that weave it all together. And there's another way that transcendentalism changed our faith forever. They found wonder in reaching deep into the heart of human suffering and seeking justice and compassion. Because they saw the spark of the divine in every human being, anything that shuttered its light was an offense to the wonder of life itself, and it was damaging, and it violated us. So transcendentalists were hungry for justice. They were hungry for the end of slavery, for instance, and many of them risked everything to end it, including their lives or going to prison. They were in the forefront of first-wave feminism in the 1800s, which focused on the right of women to vote, and also temperance, which was the movement to ban alcohol. Now, I know that today we look back on the Prohibitionist time and see the women who led this movement as little prudish, Puritan little biddies, right? You can't drink. But in truth, in that time, it was radically feminist. Because in their time, women had no rights. More than 70% of men drank heavily, and domestic violence was rampant. They hoped that by banning alcohol, they would free women and children from abuse and poverty. It didn't work at all like they hoped it would. But the intent was on protecting women and the children they bore, because women and children also have the spark of divine deep in themselves. And this is how social justice came to be embedded in what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. A rich experience of unfettered wonder should not be held back from anyone, and you eliminate these barriers to wonder by loving each other fiercely and striving for freedom, justice, and equity for all. So going back to the question we started with, how do we recover wonder when our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs change? Where do we find wonder when we are lost, sad, hopeless, cynical, or in doubt? The answer really is, where do we not look? Wonder is drenching everything around us. This week, I encourage you to take some time, even if it's just a few minutes, even if it's just while you're driving to work because it's the only time no one can ask anything from you. Think about your life now. Look around you now. Where is wonder staring you in the face? That mix of joy, admiration, love, and gratitude connected by a thin but strong strand of love and hope. I'm sure it's not far. So in a week from home, I'll be going home for Christmas. I will walk up the stairs of my parents' house. And I still feel that bit of wonder every time I see my doll, still in one of her holiday dresses, recovering from all those trips to the North Pole. May the wonder of this season be with you and yours. Happy holidays. Amen, and blessed be. Let us rise as we do for 1068, Rising Green.
My
love life is to notice the wonders that abound. And to notice the wonders abound is to be grounded here and now. And to be grounded here and now is the beginning of finding love for this life today. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are keepers of this flame until we meet again. Please be seated for one last gift of music. Thank you, David. Thank you so much for being with us today. Happy holidays to all of you. Go in peace.